Today I'm going to explain to you the overlord minion architecture.
Okay, so we know what a batch process is. Now we're going to take it one level deeper. We're going to talk about an overlord minion architecture. So, how does this work? Normally, what we had was our server here, and it would essentially be feeding off of a queue, right? So, in our batch processing example, you had a queue, and you had a worker. And the worker was essentially just grabbing messages from the queue, just like it's being demonstrated here. So these are messages. This is our worker. The worker is making a request to the queue, receiving back messages, and then processing those messages, and just continuing that cycle. Now, let's say that this queue wasn't so small. Let's say extended out, and there were 100,000 messages here. That's a lot of messages to process for one single worker. So what do? What we're going to do is create an overlord. And what this overlord is going to do is going to monitor the queue. So we have a queue here, and there's messages in the queue. And this overlord is simply going to ask the queue, hey, how many messages do you have? Do you have 5? Do you have 10? Do you have 1,000? I don't know. Let's say there's 100,000 here, just like we said before. So all this overlord is going to do is simply send requests to the queue and receive back a number. This is how large the queue is. The overlord says, hey, I need some minions. So what happens? Well, we have our secondary workers spun up, which we'll call minions, similar to the movie. So what are these minions going to do? Well, they're going to be doing the actual work. So they're going to be requesting messages to come back from the servers so that they can then process those messages. So the overlord right here will spin up these minions. And this request in red is basically saying, hey, you need to start working. What happens, the minion spins up and then says, sounds good, boss. Let me go to the queue, grab a message, or if you want, batch process and grab a handful, return them to the minion, and now this minion is processing the messages. And all the overlord is doing is this piece, saying, hey, how many messages are in the queue? And spin up the appropriate amount of minions for those number of messages. So we scale out horizontally with these minions so that the queue gets consumed. And we always have something watching over the queue to make sure that there's always minions working.
And that's what an overlord minion architecture is. Be sure to check out some of our other awesome videos. I'm your own. Thanks for joining us.